Hello, in this video we will talk about language anxiety. The educational process isn't only the acquisition of knowledge of students, but also the ability to master them. The final result largely depends on the psychological readiness of students to overcome the prevailing stereotypes and ideas about their capabilities. It is known that psychological problems arising in the educational process have a negative impact on the process of mastering the subject. And this includes anxiety, fear, disbelief in one's own strengths, and fear of mistakes.
Language learners usually express anxiety, apprehension, and nervousness when learning a new language. Language anxiety can originate from learners' own sense of self, their self-related cognitions, language learning difficulties, differences in learners and target language cultures, differences in social status of the speakers, and from the fear of losing self-identity.
In foreign psycholinguistics, Horwitz and colleagues were among the first in their studies to address the phenomenon of language anxiety. According to their definition, language anxiety is a certain set of self-esteem, beliefs, feelings, and principles of behavior associated with learning a foreign language. Which in turn is determined by the uniqueness of this process. And language anxiety, as one of the manifestations of a psychological barrier in cognitive terms, is a big obstacle to the effective mastering of a foreign language.
According to scientists, the ability to overcome psychological barriers in interpersonal communication in the native language helps to relieve anxiety in similar situations in the target language. Test fear comes from the fear of failing tests and exams. Often students with good knowledge of a foreign language set themselves an overstated bar before a test of knowledge, and any mistake is considered by them as a failure.
A negative assessment of speech in a foreign language can be shown both by the teacher and by the surrounding students, as well as in socially oriented situations. For example, during interviews, speeches at international conferences, and business meetings. Language anxiety can be expressed in the secretive behavior of the speaker, in his silence, shyness, fear, and even panic.
Consideration of language learners, anxiety reactions by a language teacher is deemed highly important in order to assist them to achieve the intent performance goals in the target language. Language anxiety may also be a result as well as a cause of insufficient command of the target language. It may be experienced due to linguistic difficulties second language or foreign language learners face in learning and using the target language.
Within social contexts, language anxiety may be experienced due to extrinsic motivators such as different social and cultural environments, particularly the environments where first language and second language in learning takes place.
The findings suggested that language anxiety can originate from learners' own sense of self, their self-related cognitions. Furthermore, considering the crucial role of teachers in second or foreign language, A need was felt to investigate the beliefs and perceptions of language teachers about learning and teaching a second or foreign language.
Foreign scientists have developed a system for measuring language anxiety in the form of a test, Foreign Language Classroom Anxiety Scale, consisting of 33 points on a 5-point Likert scale. This test has become the starting point for service in the study of language anxiety in various situations and contexts. For example, a multivariate model of language anxiety and negative assessment in the Japanese language class and in communication with native Japanese speakers. Next is studying language anxiety in Chinese students and correlation with their achievements in learning English. The relationship between the support of the teacher and classmates and language anxiety. Reducing language anxiety outside of classrooms. Next is the relationship between anxiety and motivation in English lessons. And the last one is levels of language anxiety in correlation with social linguistic variables.
Similar studies are carried out in domestic psycholinguistics. Barvenka identifies 4 groups of psychological barriers in the study of foreign language by adults. Microsocial, microsocial, subjective, and barriers due to the psychological characteristics of the process of teaching a foreign language. The latter include barriers of facilitation, interference, communication techniques, learning and application of knowledge of a foreign language, and communication barriers. Psychological barriers are also studied in the process of listening while learning a foreign language. Psychological features of learning foreign language by students of technical universities, motivation and learning a foreign language.
In conclusion, psycholinguistic problems can accompany the process of learning any language, and the task of the teacher is to reduce the degree of this tension. Since a favorable psychological climate in the classroom of a foreign language strengthens students' confidence in their abilities and thereby contributes to an increase in the level of foreign language, linguistic, and communicative knowledge and skills. So that's all. Thank you for your attention.